In the spring of 1992, just 2 weeks before graduation, I was riding a wave of anticipation and stress that every senior at the University of Maine knows too well. Finals were looming, and I had my eyes on the prize, walking across that stage, degree in hand, and leaving college life behind. But everything changed when a maintenance issue in my dorm forced me to move to a different room. At first, it seemed like a minor inconvenience, but it turned out to be something far more sinister. The university assigned me a new room in an older, less frequented part of the campus, a building that I had always thought of as a bit eerie. The campus legend claimed it had a history of unexplained events, but I never paid much attention to those stories. I wasn't superstitious, and I had bigger things to worry about, like passing my finals and finding a job after graduation. Moving was a hassle. I spent the afternoon lugging my stuff across campus and up 3 flights of stairs to my new room, room 312. As I stood in front of the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was just a door, like any other, but my hand hesitated on the knob. I brushed it off as nerves from the sudden change and pushed the door open. The room itself was ordinary enough: a bed, a desk, and a small closet. The paint was peeling a bit, and the window was slightly cracked, but nothing out of the ordinary for an old dorm building. Still, as I stepped inside, I felt a strange heaviness in the air. It was almost as if the room was holding its breath, waiting for something. I tried to ignore the unease creeping up my spine as I unpacked my things. I rationalized that I was just stressed and tired. After all, I'd had a long day of packing, moving, and dealing with the unexpected. By the time I finished setting up my room, it was well into the evening, and I was too exhausted to do much else. I decided to call it a night, hoping that sleep would come easily and chase away the strange feelings that had been nagging at me. I turned off the lights, leaving the room in near darkness. I crawled into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin, and tried to relax. But as I lay there, staring up at the ceiling, sleep wouldn't come. My mind was racing, replaying the events of the day and the looming stress of finals. My eyes kept wandering to the closet door, which was slightly ajar. Normally, I wouldn't have thought much of it, but something about that dark gap between the door and the frame unsettled me. I turned over, trying to block the view of the closet from my sight, but the uneasy feeling only grew stronger. It felt like someone was watching me, like there were eyes in that darkness, waiting for me to fall asleep. I squeezed my eyes shut, telling myself I was being ridiculous, that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. After all, I was in a new room, and it was normal to feel a bit uneasy in unfamiliar surroundings. But then I heard it, a faint rustling sound coming from the closet. My heart started pounding as I strained to listen. The sound was so soft, I almost convinced myself it was just the building settling, or maybe the wind outside. But then it came again, a little louder this time, and I knew it wasn't my imagination. I slowly turned my head, my eyes fixed on the closet. The door hadn't moved, but the darkness inside seemed deeper, more menacing. I wanted to reach for the lamp on my nightstand to flood the room with light and banish the shadows, but I couldn't move. My body was frozen with fear, my muscles locked in place. As I watched, the darkness in the closet began to shift. At first, it was just a subtle movement, like a shadow detaching itself from the wall. But then it started to take shape, a tall, dark figure slowly emerging from the closet, inching its way toward me. It moved in a way that was unnatural, almost gliding across the floor without making a sound. My breath caught in my throat as the figure grew clearer. It was tall, much taller than any person I had ever seen, with an outline that was disturbingly human but entirely void of any features. It was as if someone had carved a man-shaped hole out of the darkness itself. The figure moved closer, and I could feel the temperature in the room drop, the air growing colder with each step it took. I wanted to scream, to jump out of bed and run, but I couldn't. My body refused to obey, paralyzed by a fear so intense it felt like a physical weight pressing down on me. The figure was almost at the foot of my bed now, looming over me, its presence suffocating. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what was happening, but there was no rational explanation for what I was seeing. The figure reached the side of my bed, and I could feel the icy cold radiating from it, seeping through the blankets and chilling me to the bone. It leaned down, bringing its face, if you could call it that, closer to mine. There were no eyes, no features at all, just an empty void where a face should have been. And yet, I could feel it staring into me, as if it was peering into my very soul. I was certain this was the end. I could feel the panic rising, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. My mind was screaming for me to do something, anything, but I was utterly powerless. The figure was so close now that I could feel its breath, cold and unnatural, brushing against my skin. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the door to my room suddenly burst open. The harsh fluorescent light from the hallway flooded in, and my resident advisor stood in the doorway, his expression a mix of concern and confusion. In that split second, the figure recoiled, retreating back into the shadows of the closet with a speed that was impossible. It vanished without a trace, as if it had never been there. I didn't give my resident advisor a chance to ask what was wrong. I bolted out of bed, brushing past him as I fled the room. My legs felt like jelly, but I didn't stop running until I was out of the building and halfway down the street. I had no idea where I was going. I just needed to get as far away from that room as possible. I ended up at a gas station convenience store, my heart still racing, my skin crawling with the memory of that thing, my hands shaking as I dialed my parents' number on the payphone outside. When they answered, I could barely get the words out, my voice trembling as I begged them to come and get me. They didn't ask any questions. They knew something was terribly wrong. I spent the next 2 weeks until graduation commuting from my parents' house. I never went back to that dorm room. I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone the full story. It sounded too crazy, like something out of a horror movie. But I know what I saw. That room was wrong, haunted by something beyond our understanding, and I was just unlucky enough to cross its path. Even now, years later, I can't fully explain what happened that night. But every time I close my eyes, I see that figure looming over me, and I feel that same bone-chilling cold. It's a memory that will haunt me for the rest of my life, a reminder that some things in this world are better left unexplained.